Hi, this is Darswell Rogers, the host of Profiles and Perspectives. If you like interviews like the one that you're about to listen to, please like, share, and comment on this video. Thank you. Welcome to this edition of Profiles and Perspectives with Darswell Rogers. Today, we're going to delve into the realm of politics. My guest, City Councilperson Heather Hutt, formerly worked for Kamala Harris when she was Senator from California. Heather Hutt represents the 10th City Council District in Los Angeles, which has about 270,000 residents. She's a California native that has over 30 years of public service as a public servant, committing her life to activism, public service, and her community. Heather has had and has served in many different capacities in her career, but today we want to focus on her time working for Kamala Harris when she was senator. Heather was a senior advisor and statewide director to Senator Harris. She's the first Black person to hold that position as statewide director. And this is a critical responsibility, as the statewide director is the principal representative for the senator with constituents and elected leaders throughout California. And I just want to provide some context here. California has 39 million residents, and California would be the fifth largest economy in the world if it wasn't part of the United States. So that puts it just behind Germany and ahead of India, the United Kingdom, France, Italy, and Canada. Okay, so that provides some context. And I invited Heather on this morning. We've been friends for over 40 years. And so, and given the fact that we've had this amazing moment in time where Vice President Harris suddenly became president, a Democratic nominee elect Harris, I just felt like I had to reach out to Heather. And so, Heather, thanks for joining me this morning on the program.
Darswell, thank you for having me. When you talk about the breath of California, it's like, oh yeah, I forgot that was such a big responsibility. And working for then U.S. Senator and now a vice president or the Democratic nominee was one of my most honorable career positions. And I'm happy to be here to, talk to you about what it's like having a woman in that seat. Remember, she was the first Black woman from California to have the U.S. Senate seat, the first Black woman to be a DA, first Black woman to be a AG. And so she's busted a whole bunch of glass. And don't let me stop there. She's not just the first Black woman, she's the first Asian woman, so Black and Asian. So she busted a lot of ceilings for women, not just in California, but really all over the world. And then she helped me break one too by being the first Black woman or man as a statewide director to the U.S. Senate from California. We're still doing research on other places in the country, but we know for sure in California. Awesome. So she lifts as she climbs, for sure.
So have you had an opportunity to talk to her since this all happened?
I have something terrible to say. So I get a call an hour before the announcement from Wilmington, Delaware. I didn't pick up. I didn't pick up. And so she left me a message. Hey, this is Kamala. We'll check in later. And then that's all I got.
And she's been a little busy since then.
I tried to call back, but it was no answer. But I didn't even. The truth was, I was in Las Vegas, and it was in the morning, and my sister has a basketball team, and they were combining, and so I was like, Wilmington, is this spam? It was a Sunday morning. I was like, So yeah, I missed the heads up.
Missed the heads up. So, so
kind
let,
of CNN.
let's take it. Let's go back to kind of to the beginning, because this really is kind of your opportunity to provide folks with some context on Kamala Harris. How did you all
Sure,
meet, or how did you get to have a connection with her?
sure. I it's kind of a long story. So my sister used to be the president of New Frontier Democratic Club, which is the oldest and largest African American Democratic club west of the Mississippi. And it was at a time where she was the DA and she was running for AG, and she really needed support for Attorney General in Southern California because she's a Northern California person. So my sister put, a investment from the Dem Club into a headquarters that they already had here, but it wasn't really operationalizing. So she also got a lot of volunteers, and we were boots on the ground. I got to meet her in that space. So that was my first meeting, is really working to help her get to AG. And if you look at those numbers, South LA really brought it home for her. And that was the beginning. I worked for then Isidore Hall in the state assembly as his district director. And then on to be his state, when he went to state senate, I was his district director again. So then, just getting to know her through legislation and so on is how I believe I built a relationship. And when she became the U.S. Senate, there was a group of her kitchen cabinet that said you should have a woman, and we know just the woman for you. So they actually called me and said, "Hey, do you want to go work for Kamala Harris?" And my answer was, "Hell yeah!" And so that's pretty much how it went. I went through, the application and the resume and the interviews, but I realized after I got the job that it was 14,000 people turned in applications for that job.
Wow.
Isn't that something?
Wow.
So, I mean, that blew me away. And then the responsibility was big because there were 5 offices throughout the state. Each office had a minimum of 5 people. The headquarters was in LA. And then we had about 50 rotating interns. So it was it's like an in-state chief of staff, plus you liaise with the county supervisors and city council members. And in California, we have about 1,400 bona fide cities. So connecting with all of them was a lot.
It's a lot, and so in that responsibility, clearly you're very constituent or local focused. Provide some perspective in terms of your engagement with then Senator Harris. We've heard things about how her staff has felt about her in the White House.
I
what's
would love to. I would
let,
love to
yeah,
address that.
let's do the
Okay.
what is she like? Give me the what.
Okay. So, it's very interesting. Um, when I ran the staff in the state, we didn't have that kind of problem because many times you get people that are more fan based. Like they have qualifying factors and they're hireable, but they're a fan and not necessarily want to do the work. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And so
they're attracted to the cachet more so than what the substance of the responsibilities are. Is that kind of it?
correct. And so they want to have cookies with Kamala and not necessarily want to do the work, which was a thing. Like, when she had the time, she did cookies with Kamala, with her staff. But they want that all the time. And that is not what you were hired for. You were hired to do the work. So I could see where the rub was in the White House, that folks thought that it was a play day, and it was, she's very organized, and she's looking for efficiency from her staff. And so I think that they were confused on their roles.
Mm,
I had the same situation in the state, in the Senate, where young people wanted to spend more time riding the car. Like, no, that's not your job. You never rode in the car with her. You're not. So I had a lot of explaining to do about what their roles are. And
yeah.
so, in folks that probably misunderstood what their roles were, then they took to social and all these other things to say, oh, it's terrible. Oh no, I didn't like working for her. And so I could see that. And plus there's an org chart, and and it depends on where you live on that org chart, how much access
Mhm.
you have to her.
So,
If
so,
you're
so
doing a project, oh, go ahead.
no, no, I said so. So if you're to just come back to this main question around this criticism that's been out there, there's frequently been this presumption that a guy can be tough and they're just being tough, but if a woman is it, then there's a whole different label simply because you're female. What I'm hearing from you is she's efficient, she wants to get stuff done. And so when you hear those comments about her staff's feelings, you're really coming down to maybe a lack of people really understanding that you're here to work versus, as you say, have cookies with Kamala.
Correct. That's exactly, you put it in a nutshell.
Okay.
That's exactly. And many times, this is your first out of college job. And so you have a different expectation than what real work is. Like, and
So
and this requires real work.
yeah, so give us some personal perspective about your relationships or times that you've had with her. This is like, can you pull back the curtain a little bit on the persona that people see? I mean, we know she loves to smile. We know, her face, she lights up. I mean, but give us some context, please.
I would say, um, what people don't understand is that one of the things that she used to say is that we're joyful warriors. Like, we're boots on the ground, warriors for our communities, but we have to feel good about it inside. And so she feels good inside.
Mm,
Her family poured that into her. Her sister is the same delightful kind of person that you see. Her nieces are the same delightful people that you see. They're happy to be alive, they're happy to serve. I like to hope that I'm happy to do it too. Like, some folks go to work and they're just like, why am I here? But she's really happy to serve, and even happier when she hits a home run.
mm.
So there were some home runs that were difficult to do during the Trump administration because they had the ABC, anywhere but California. So putting emphasis in projects and making sure federal funding came for projects was the way that she could win under administration, where you couldn't win on legislation. You could win on making sure California uh, had assistance during wildfires. Freeways got widened and used. You bought funding and made sure SNAP stayed whole. Things like that. That was the kind of things that you could see tangibly in our state, and so she got joy out of that. Working to expose behavior in those committees, she worked real hard on making sure she had the right questions so that people could understand who they're talking about, particularly for those two Supreme Court justice positions that were open, which was Amy Coney Barrett and Brett Kavanaugh.
Certainly, if anyone who watched her during her Senate time in questioning, you felt that prosecutorial skill set that she brought to those conversations. And I also gathered from listening to conversations in terms of where President Biden has found value. It's been in national security meetings and probably others where she, in effect, will dig down into what people say. People will give you a presentation And if you don't try and peel that back, they're hoping you're just going to let it slide through. And my clear sense is that she wants to get down to the nub in terms of understanding the essence of what it is that you're telling her, and not just think that you're going to blow it by.
That would be accurate. And her transparent piece, where she wants people to be clear-eyed when she's involved. And
What
so,
does that mean, to be clear-eyed? Help me with that one.
to have more depth of information so that you have a greater understanding. She will do the best that she can to make sure that the public has the information. And she really believes in that. She really believes in talking to the media so the public understands the work that you're doing. Where some people dip, they don't want to talk, she will go for it. So back to the Joy question. She wanted everyone to be happy where they were working too. It's not easy work, but it's important. And you should understand that your contributions are important for this country and for the democracy. And that was kind of the climate in the office.
So we're talking to Councilperson Heather Hutt. She's the councilperson for the 10th District in Los Angeles. She previously served as the statewide director and senior policy for Senator Kamala Harris, and we've invited her on to share some insights about Kamala Harris. So when you think about her attributes, can you speak to what is it that you would say you most admire about her? And when you begin to think about her in this role as the leader of the free world, what is it that you can envision? I mean, is that crazy to say? I know, right?
Right?
What is it that you can say are the attributes that you most admire about her and you think she's going to be able to bring to this new position?
She has experience, more experience than the opponent. She has the experience, even in the White House, working for the president as vice president. She'll bring all that experience to the table. Her efficiency will let you know that she's going to work hard to do things that are protective of our democracy. She believes in our democracy, and I think that's one of the things that people should know. I'm not positive that her opponent believes in our democracy. He may believe in a dictatorship, and he wants to be the dictator. But she believes in our democratic process. She believes in really preserving it, protecting it. I think that people should understand that. She will fight for the least of these, as she has for so many years. And she also has the international acumen to deal with leaders in other parts of the world. And I think that will be an important factor in her leadership role. Yes, domestically you have experience, but as far as what you have to do internationally, I believe she's the right person to do the job.
At the beginning of our conversation, you talked about the number of firsts that she had, and you started out by saying first Black woman, but then you said, well, also the first Asian woman. There's this conversation out there about Vice President Harris's identity. Can you just speak to what you know about her identity in terms of the years that you've known her?
I'm gonna give you an example. She identifies with both, and you know this through her cooking, right?
Yeah.
So she does cook Indian food. I mean, this is kind of where identity comes through personally. She cooks Indian food, and she's done that with what was the actress's name?
Yeah, I forget, but we've seen the video. I've seen the video, but
right. But she also cooks real soul food. And I'll tell you a funny story. Okay, so she was the in Los Angeles, we have the MLK parade, Martin Luther King Kingdom Day Parade. It's the only one that's televised, and she was the Grand Marshal. And so at the end of the parade, she had to go on, but her husband, her kids, and the rest of the staff went to Doolin's, which is a restaurant in Los Angeles. That I actually went to high school with the guy who built it. I don't know if you know him, Greg Doolin.
I might be somewhat familiar with him. Yeah.
So we went to Doolin's, and you know, they were prepared for us. So we had greens and mac and cheese and, you know, all the things, and fried chicken and catfish, amazing. So her husband got all the food. Then later we saw him, and Doug goes, "That you should have come to Doolin's. It was really good. I had greens, fried chicken, mac and cheese. It was amazing." And she looked at him and said, "Were his greens better than mine?" So what does that tell you?
That means that she's cooking some greens at home.
Yeah, in a soulful way, right?
Right.
And then we have another friend that is a award-winning cookbook writer, and I have given her the books for Christmas.
You're talking about Tony, I take it, right?
Tony, yeah, Tony Tipton Martin, right?
Right.
And so I gave her Jubilee, and then shortly there, she's the vice president, right? I gave her the Jubilee book, and then after I gave it to her for Christmas, then I think I saw her in March or something, and then she goes, "Oh, I gotta tell you something. I made those short ribs." So like she's cooking Black food, and she's cooking Indian food, not as an experience.
Right.
You know, like she's not trying to experiment. That's what she is inside. She's an AKA, which is a historical Black sorority. She went to Howard, which is a historical Black university. I mean, she's a Link, which is a historical Black give back organization. So I don't see her denying her Blackness. That's what I should say.
Yeah.
I think that she is connecting both. And isn't that what we are all about? Aren't we all about connecting all of our culture together in ourselves and displaying it as we can?
That pride in who you are, I think, is foundational and fundamental, and I have no criticisms of it at all. I always reflect back on the Tiger Woods experience, where people wanted him to identify principally as Black, and my question is, well, if you were birthed out of an Asian woman and an Asian woman took care of you your entire life, I don't care whatever else you are, you must be whoever birthed you and took care of you. So it's never been an issue for you. And to your point, if you're a member of the Divine Nine and you went to an HBCU, your credibility in terms of my community is secure. And yes, we have a mixture of people that we are, and there's you can be more than one thing.
And I don't know anybody Black who didn't have an Indian great grandma. They tell you.
That's right. It might have been a Native American Indian versus
Native American,
East Indian.
correct.
But
but they say, my great grandma was Indian. She was Blackfoot, or Cherokee, or
exactly.
So we're all mixed up. I don't know why they made this identity issue.
Yeah. So as we wind this down, Heather, is there anything else you want to share, just as it relates to Vice President Harris, your perspective and the like?
I do want to talk about one thing. She gets criticism on her criminal justice stance, especially as DA.
Yeah.
And people say, "Oh, she put all these Black people away." but I want to say that she was one of the first DAs in the country to start a program for reentry, and it was called uh, Back on Track. Folks should look that up because it was the first program in California specifically that helped recently released folks go back on track, re-enter into the workforce, get housing, get their government ID, social security card, all the things that would help you move forward in your life. And she doesn't get credit for that. She doesn't get credit for looking into the community and saying, wait, okay, so Bobo's out of jail. Now what's he gonna do? And she really did that work. And then it morphed into more things, big reentry projects and so on and so forth. But as a DA in a little dinky town called San Francisco, she made a difference in that space. And they're still utilizing her program as a model throughout the country. And people should know that. So it wasn't like it was the end of the road for people if they got incarcerated. She found a way for them to get back and get back in society and be self-sustaining. And folks should know that part about her. They should also know that like she's a real family person and she has children and she wants them around. She wants to do the family thing. I can't recall during my years with her having a town hall or anything where somebody close, a friend or a family, wasn't coming to support her. I want folks to know that we need to look at this election like they did in the 60s. We cannot leave it to chance. You need to call 10 friends and make sure they're voting and tell them to call 10 friends. We need to get young people to vote. And I talked to her about voting in April. And I said, what do we have to do? And she said, we have the numbers if the young people would go vote. So even I have kids in their 30s and, you know, they're trying to figure out how to stimulate their generation and folks younger than them. But we have to really emphasize how important voting is for them and get them to go vote. Like in the old days, like met at the church and drive to the polls. We got to get them to vote.
Perfect.
We can't leave it to the internet to encourage them. And so that's the crucial part about protecting our democracy is that, first of all, the young people are mad about the incarceration. We have to tell them she's the one that started the programs so that people could get back on their feet. It was called Back on Track. They could Google it, and you know, all the fact checking things they do. And then they need to go vote.
Outstanding. Councilwoman Heather Hutt, thank you for giving me some of your time this morning.
Thank you, Darswell.
I'm coming west in about a month. I'll give you a heads up on that. But to folks at Profiles and Perspectives, thanks so much, and we'll talk to you next time.